Welcome to Leading Organizations That Matter. I'm your host, Ray Spadoni, and today's topic is when optimism becomes denial. It's human nature, more specifically, it's the leader's nature to be upbeat, to see the positive, to look forward and into the future with optimism. Now, this is not a universal truth, but in my experience, people tend to gravitate towards those leaders who see the good and who exhibit strong virtues. And so when times get bad, many leaders exhibit optimism. It's to be expected. But such optimism can sometimes give way to a strong desire to avoid or maybe at least deflect worry or panic among board members, colleagues, and employees. Unfortunately, that desire can result in what I like to describe as happy denial speak. Happy denial speak. If financial performance is declining, a topic that I discuss in my book quite a bit, some executives will seek to not only avoid panic, but also to squelch tough and probing questions from those who are bold enough to wonder and pose the question. Sadly, this instinct can even go too far, as some will begin to mildly at first anyways, color the truth and sometimes even feign optimism. This is where things can go sideways fast, though it isn't always intentional. It can happen as a natural extension of what began simply enough, the desire to be upbeat. The very worst part of this denial phenomenon is that it can lull people to sleep, making them unaware of the upcoming dangers. And therefore, then they become more poorly equipped to bob and weave when that's needed. The most denial-oriented cultures end up becoming the least nimble and the most stiff, in my experience. I work with a number of organizations that are experiencing some type of challenge, and it's quite common that the warning signs were there, right there, in plain sight all along. The absolute most important thing for board members and leaders to know is that this can happen. In other words, simply understanding that innocent optimism can lead to a denial-oriented culture if left unchecked will typically prevent it from actually becoming so. And for board members, who are the ones most accountable ultimately for the enduring preservation of that organization's mission, they must pay close attention and should not be lulled into that slumber. They must be keen, vigilant, and observant enough to look through the shiny, happy veneer to whatever could lurk behind it. If performance is starting to deteriorate, be wary of any and all forms of happy denial speak. Thank you for listening. I hope that you'll consider subscribing to this podcast if you haven't already, telling your friends and your coworkers about it, and if you could provide a review on Apple Podcast or your platform of choice, that would help a lot. Please feel free to learn more about me and my work at redsaleadvisors.com.